One of my followers sent me a frame for a rescue mission. He tried to paint it himself but couldn't get it done. And what he sent was a look 595, and as you can see he started to strip the frame but got in trouble around the lugs. And my job is to strip the frame completely and to apply a new paint job. And what he had in mind was a mondrian style pearl white base coat with the mondrian design around the chainstays, also inside the fork and on the logo typing. But before I can do that, I have to strip the frame, and to do that I'm using mediablasting because it's a fast and easy way to strip carbon parts without damaging the carbon structure. And stripping the carbon frame takes around about 2 hours, but the major parts are done and I have to do only the lugs, and the time span for doing that is around about 30 to 40 minutes. And that's the complete stripped frame. And what I have to do now is I have to close some holes because the follower likes to go with a Di2 and don't need any shifting cables. And what I'm doing is I'm using 2-component epoxy and some carbon rods to close these holes. It's a fast method and the epoxy is super strong. So what I'm doing is I'm filling these holes with the epoxy and I'm gluing these carbon rods. And it takes around about 30 minutes until the resin cures. And when the epoxy is cured I can sand it down, and that's a super easy method to close these holes if you have cable entries. Here I'm using a finger file to sand down the carbon rods. That's fast and easy, and I can do exactly the shape of the frame because the finger file can sand down only small parts. And what I'm doing here is I'm applying the first layer of primer in white. I'm using a white carbon primer, but as mentioned it's only the first layer. It takes 2 to 3 layers of carbon primer for a super smooth finish. So what I have to do is I have to apply a layer of primer, I have to sand it down with 320 grit, I have to apply another layer of primer, you can see me doing that here. I have to sand down again with 600 to 800 grit, and maybe I have to apply a third thin layer of primer for the super smooth finish. And that's time consuming. All in all it takes around about 3 to 4 days to smooth the frame and to prepare it for the base coat. That's the white base coat and it's a 2-layer finish. That means I have to apply the white first and on top the pearl layer. So here you can see me applying the white base coat, and when I've done that I change to the pearl color and I apply the pearl color on top. These are the colors for the mondrian style, and they are all pearl colors: pearl yellow, pearl red, pearl blue and a black for the outlines. And I'm starting with the outline color first, so I cut super thin strips and I use them as the border between the pearl white and the black outlines. So I apply the thin strip and I mask the outside of the fork with masking tape. And from now on I'm using the airbrushes to do the design, because you can apply a super thin coating and that's needed if you do a multicolor design without any gaps. So I'm starting with the black, and it's an inverted design. I spray the outlines first, but not single outlines. I apply the complete, I paint the complete layer in black. Then I mask the outlines, I paint white again, and then I can do the mondrian style. Here you can see me demasking the mondrian pattern, and these are the outlines, the black outlines, the mask for the black outlines. And when I've applied this mask I can spray white again as a base coat for the colors. Here you can see me applying the white base coat on top of the black outline color. I already installed the outline mask, and the white base coat is needed for brilliant colors because the mondrian style colors are yellow or red, And these light colors need a white base coat to pop out perfect. And that's the most time consuming step because I have to mask every single rectangle before I can spray the colors. And it needs around about 2 to 3 days to spray every of these rectangles. And I'm using different colors and different airbrushes, so I don't have to change the color. One airbrush for one color, and that's handy, it saves time. And I can make sure not to mix the colors. So if you like to do a pattern like this, it's an advantage to have more than one airbrush. Here you can see me removing the mask, the outline mask. And the black is underneath the colors and these light mondrian colors are on top. I have to take my time to remove the masks and I have to be very careful not to damage the design. If I damage the design with the knife, I have to start from scratch, and that's what I like to avoid. And it's not as easy as it seems to remove these masks. So take your time. And yeah, here you can see the mondrian style. And I have to do exactly the same on chainstays. I start again with the thin strips to mark the area for the mondrian pattern. And these strips are good for sharp edges, and that's exactly the reason why I use these strips. And I have to mask the frame to save it from any overspray. I'm starting again with black for the outline color. And I apply only thin layers, 3 to 5 thin layers. And when I'm using the airbrush and these thin layers, I can avoid any gap between the white and the black base coat. I already masked the black and the white base coat, and here you can see me masking these rectangles. It's super time consuming. I needed days to do that because I have to be very careful to do the masking absolutely accurate and exact to avoid any gaps in between the colors. And I'm starting with the lightest color, the yellow, then the red and the blue on top. And here you can see me removing the mask, the outline mask, and that's also super difficult because there's a curve around the bottom bracket, so there are no straight lines and I had to do a lot of adjustments to get the outlines right. And that's the mask for the Look logo on the seat tube. I'm starting with the letters first in black. Same procedure as on the inside of the fork and the chainstays. Black base coat, then the pattern mask and a white base coat on top. Then I have to fill all the rectangles. That's another layer of transfer sheet, so I can make sure I have every single shape, also the inside of the O. And applying these masks is also not so easy. I have to make sure they are straight. And yeah, I take my time. And when I think it's straight, when it looks straight, it is straight. Now I apply the black base coat, and as you can see, they are super thin layers. You can't see nearly nothing on the first layer. And I need also around about 3 to 5 layers of the black. And again, fill in all these rectangles, mask and spray and mask and spray, and it's super annoying, super time consuming, and it's a waste of time. But that's the essence of custom painting, masking every single of these shapes and doing it by hand. There's no print involved. And here you can see me removing the outline mask of the look. The mask of the inside of the O. And yeah, seems a bit confusing because all colors are inverted. You can see the black around the look, but that's only the mask. Now I remove these outline masks for the black around the look. And yeah, it's an inverted technique. You start with the first layer, the black, and every single layer on top. So I start with the darkest one and end with the lightest color. And here you can see me removing the outline masks of the rectangles, and that's the end result, the look logo with the Mondrian pattern. And that's the 595 mask for the down tube. And as every time it is straight when it looks straight, so I take my time to apply these masks, and I'm using a double layer of masking tape to transfer every single piece of the masking fall. And again applying black base coat in 3 to 5 thin layers to avoid any gaps between the black base coat and the pearl white of the frame. That's again the outline mask for the 595. I have to remove all these little rectangles by hand before I can apply the mask and spray the white base coat. And again fill in the rectangles, this time with blue. And I have also a look logo for the head tube. And the same again, I'm starting with black and then a white base coat and then the mondrian style pattern. Here you can see me filling again all these rectangles, and I did again the lightest color first, then the red, and at last the blue. And that's an easy task because the mask is one piece, so I can remove all the masks in one step, and that looks very cool. But I have to peel off the insides of the O, and that's a bit nerve-wracking because I have to make sure not to destroy the paint job. And again removing the masks in one step. It looks very cool when you can remove the masks in one step because you can unveil the complete design in this step. And I'm done with the design, but to save my artwork I have to apply clear coat, and what I'm using is a high solid 2-component clear coat, 2 layers of the clear coat with a delay of 10 minutes, and when I've done that I can polish the frame and I can send it back to my customer.